jump right in. Call the spaceships to Davenport to prepare for Divanarchy and interface with a couch in space. Space Couch is back. I know we were on the space road doing space shows with not the space gossicles like normal gossicles, but we're back in space. And Hachi Machi we got a great one lined up for you today. Not a lot of talky talk right now because I just kind of want to get into it. But I do need to let you know special messages from our advertisers. That is, of course, Tiger Squawk Records. You want to check out so much new stuff. We went crazy. Broken Zukunft out of Germany, Melting Rust Opera. Tainted Flesh, a new soundtrack from Australia's Isserley. Church of Bryantology, Volume 3. It's free! New Duckbag TM. Sorry, I'm a little burpy. It's really good. More, that's Red Tiles, another soundtrack from Australia, from Isserley. Amalgamated Cadaver, live and feral from Manchester, New Hampshire. Circus of Fear, more from Isserley. Aggro Minion, can you believe it? She's on a tear. That is really more Amalgamated Cadaver, live from the dentist's office. That's like live right over there. Radomania is really back on a tear. Proxy Dream, synthwave out of Montreal. That's a different band, same guys, but they switch places. The Virtual Terrorist, We Are a Hazard. It is a powerful track. Should come with seatbelts. You also want to check out these from our wonderful patrons, Gozer Games, longtime sponsor. I Hate Artists, Lured by Radium, The Ramadan, Grim Reaper for Hire, who's just been really funny on Patreon these days. Bremily Ray, Fly Ahead. We'll see you soon in Baton Rouge. Walter out of the greatest leather shop in the world. Hunt Hawk. I hear they're making a new movie. And Guga Galich on Twitch. If you want to see your name, just go to patreon.com/Gothsicles. You know how it works. Ladies and gentlemen, that's enough of that. Because we are in outer space here on Space Couch. But let's just go to outer space with our guest, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Mark of Out. What's going on?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on the couch.
Hey, no problem.
I'm
Brian,
on my couch.
no. Well, Brian, no, you were first in the chat room. And
Hey, Brian.
and Fives there, Twitch. Oh, everybody's all the heavy hitters are out for the Out episode.
Nice. My headphones
Pardon the pun. That's well,
There we go.
we'll take up a space collection. We've not done a charity event ever, so we'll do like a give send go for out for new space headphones.
They're actually really good. They just not when I have one ear off because I can't hear myself otherwise. So.
Well, we've done
Bad
nothing
planning.
but hear you for the past, in my world line, 25-ish years. And we were talking before the show, maybe even longer than that. It's just
Yeah.
there's like for the too long didn't read of you at home. Our guest today is kind of a legend with a ton of music. I where do you start? I was just going to make it. Where do you drop the needle on that record? I was going to just start with the most recent thing I could find in terms of releases. Not only because it was the most recent, but because it's on our own Tiger Squawk Records on Insulin Shocks. This is WX.
It's been golden show. I don't want you to go tonight.
Oh yeah, that's great.
But okay, so that was WXJL tonight on Tiger Squawk Records' own 62 track Insulin Shocks. I
It's a
bring that up.
beast.
Well, you would know because you mastered the motherfucker. So like, I threw kind of two big things at you. Like, if you want to talk to us about like that track in general, and then we'll do a circle around like what it's like to master 62 tracks.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. That track in general, mainly, I'm in one of those dry periods for writing new material personally. But I love being part of these benefit records. So it's been an opportunity for me to go, well, I can cover a song or something.
Hell yeah.
In the event of like some of the riveting music things, they made suggestions as to like what they wanted, or at least guided, the female artist tribute thing.
Right.
For example, I was like, oh, I'll do Danielle Dax, sure.
Hell yeah.
For this one, it was more like, what's a song that I might have covered had I made that 80s covers album 2 CDs long or something.
Right.
It was sort of on the longer list of options. Those first couple Human League records are amazing. And the fact that they were doing them, with a Roland System 100.
Right.
And, and it's like, so that was the challenge for me, was to try to do a cover that was somewhat faithful, but also somewhat not. But in particular, to not use anything sample based.
Oh, like you can't cheat, right? Like you're gonna.
Yeah, I had to generate everything with, it was all plugins. Of course, at this point, I'm just in the box, but
sure,
it was all analog synthesizer.
Right.
And so there's that challenge of like, oh, how do I make that drum sound? Or something like the one on the record. I didn't want to necessarily make it exactly the same, but have it be similar enough where it's like instantly recognizable. It's a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, awesome. I want to do many of our listeners / viewers. I would say 87% are in industrial bands. But if you're not, I just want to do a quick. There's kind of a weird. Correct me if I'm wrong, but definitely reverence, but certainly a culture of reverence around. Sort of these ancient artists, and we're trying to get back to, with our modern technology, get back to what they did in 1982 with 3 watts of electricity and 2 toothpicks, and you're like, how did you? It's just go on.
There's something great about actually setting limitations for yourself too. We now live in such the lap of luxury in terms of any sound imaginable at our fingertips. And it may be $29.95 away for the plugin, but that's it. That's the only barrier. It's not like you've got to, spend thousands of dollars for a piece of hardware, and you can only use one instance of it.
Well, dude.
Unless you print it, and then, anyway, that's old school.
No, well, it's everyone's laughing because it's like we do this all the time on the show, where it's like I'd put on my leather strip like cassette tape or whatever in high school, and like I have no idea how this is made, right? Like,
yeah,
it's then I'll save up. Go on.
The fact that it was made too,
right,
with the technology at the time, and it's still actually, a lot of those records still sound
amazing, right?
Amazing, yeah.
And it's like, just to even figure out like what an Alesis HR16 drum machine is, let alone whatever app I may have on my phone for $5.
But the limitations of having, when I started out, well, when I really started out, that's another story. But when I started, when out really kind of became the thing, if I recall correctly, the initial setup in my home studio was a Roland S700 sampler.
Hell yeah.
A Yamaha DX100.
You got to do it.
A Roland D110.
Yeah, buddy.
And a Tascam double speed 4-track, the 234, the rack mount.
I mean, what are you going to do? Not have a Tascam 4-track? Like, it's how you do it.
Well, that's how I did the vocals with time code on track 4.
Really?
And
shit. Okay.
Yeah. And the sequencer was an Alesis MMT8.
Oh, with the rubber buttons.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
hell
I got
yeah.
really good at cleaning. I got really good at cleaning. But the limitations of having only so many things at your fingertips does two things, I think.
Hmm.
One is it forces you to really push the equipment as far as you can and really explore it and really get into some of the deep stuff that you can do with it.
Hmm.
And secondly, allows that abundance of choice to get out of the way.
Oh,
You're not
okay.
spending all that time like, okay, I can get this bass sound with 10 different synthesizers. I should audition all of them before making a decision. It's like, no, I got this one thing that makes a good bass sound. I'm just going to go for that and tweak it.
Hell yeah. Like, I mean,
It can get paralyzing.
it can be like that's like most people I know that never started that band, air quotes band, were just like dudes that opened Reason or Cubase or whatever and saw like a pallet of plugins and just went like and got scared.
It's overwhelming.
Can be overwhelming. And some of the best advice I ever got was personally, this is my friend Dan Clark. Used to do guitars for Strumkern, if you remember them. But
Oh yeah.
hell yeah, he was like, yeah, just get this is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So he was like, get some Spotted Cow, which was like what you drank, and get a 6 of Spotted Cow. You only get one plug-in a night, but you learn that plug-in, and that's why I still use shit from 2006 because I got into the guts of Triforce or whatever I was using. Sorry, you just made my mind light up with music talk. But yes, like
easy to go there.
Easy to go there, but like learn the thing. Don't just buzz through the presets. Like learn the fucking thing. You at home.
That's another good rule to have, by the way. Is if you're gonna buzz through the presets,
yeah,
and you land on one where you're like, hey, that works, dig into it and tweak it. Tweak it, make it your own.
Oh, okay.
Don't just land on a preset and go, oh, that works. It's like, well, make it work better.
Right. Okay.
And it could be as simple as maybe the high pass filter. Maybe it's got a little too much low end or a little too much top end, or maybe change the oscillator a little bit.
Yeah, the chances of it being perfect just because you clicked on it aren't great, and like you make it 5% better for your track, like
and 5% more you.
Totally,
because you're tweaking it to what sounds good to you, and it sounded good to you to begin with, but then further that. So I it's really, really rare that I mean,
well, that's
if
interesting.
if I had a nickel for every time that I just landed on a preset and used it, I'd probably have a nickel.
You're sort of leading into something else I wanted to ask, because even more recently than this Insulin Shocks thing, and which is you mastered 62 tracks. It's a beast. You've also been doing mixing and mastering, what I would call production, but don't let me put words in your mouth, for our most frequent guest here on Space Couch, Stephen Archer of Stoneburner, and also the Ego Likeness shirt, which you are currently donning. We've had some other producer types on the show. Is there ever a balance or philosophy when, like you're talking about, with like a preset, like you're making it you, but you're punching up somebody else's work, so you want to leave that original artist vision in there, or is that not the same thing?
Yeah. Well, what I do with Steven, at the very least, is basically just mastering.
Mm-hmm.
But usually he sends me stems of everything broken out. And I usually do a pre-mastering comb through, so sort of a post-mix mix.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't do much at all. I might go, oh yeah, that stem's going to fight with that stem. I'm going to carve the low end out of that just to give it a little more room, or maybe the vocal needs a little bit of treatment. But the idea is to do as little as possible to try to present it as, I don't know, in the punchiest way possible.
Right.
And then dump it into the mastering chain.
Cool. Little changes to preserve, to paraphrase. Ed
Sometimes
Burke.
I'll really dig in. Sometimes I'll really
Okay.
dig in. And Steven, the wonderful thing, I've been working with him for so long now that it's rare when I send him one of these things that he goes, dude, what happened? And usually what happens is like I misassigned the vocal bus and it didn't print to the mix. And so I sent him like a song that's half instrumental. And of course I didn't hear it because I'm monitoring everything, but it didn't print to the files. And I sent it to him.
Oh,
Like,
no.
what happened to the vocal? It's really low. It's like, really? I'll go open it up. No, it's not. And then I like, look, oh, wrong output.
Womp womp.
Yep. But he's gotten to the point where he largely just trusts me, which is an amazing.
Okay.
It's an amazing thing. And of course I'm the same with him. Anything I throw at him, like, do a remix for me, he sends it back. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm sorry, just Bad Seed 666, since they had my first show last night. I blanked out on a couple songs. A little embarrassing. Luckily, not a lot of people showed up. I need to learn and feel my music and know it better. I didn't write them or make these songs, so it kind of makes sense. I'll get there someday. We'll do live show stuff in a second, Bad Seed. I do want to ask our guest. I was talking with a housemate earlier about trying to figure out like when did we first sort of like understand out because you've just sort of always been this like industrial presence, at least in my life, and he pegged it down to the Boston Electro 101 comp in 1996. And he, like I said, is a Tackhead fan. And we know you had some mentoring from Tackhead. I'm a little bit of an earlier vintage, so I was probably like 98-ish. I figured you out. Like, I was wondering if we could just go back to the early days of Out or the Massachusetts world. Now that I live in Boston, like, how did that come about for you?
The music scene, because I've been in Western Mass my whole life, which is not exactly close to Boston.
No,
I mean, it's closer than New York or something.
Right.
But it's still a good couple hour drive. So I was never really part of a Boston scene.
Okay.
And there wasn't really much of a scene around here.
Okay.
In the late 80s and early 90s, there was a couple bands. And in the late 80s, I hooked up through a friend of mine who goes by the name Taylor 808. I think he does a lot of soundtrack work these days. I've lost touch with him, sadly. But
okay.
But back then he was doing a sort of electro goth, Planet Zymox type project.
Okay.
And so we tried collaborating. That didn't really quite work. But he had a friend who had a little record label called Turn of the Century Records in New Britain, Connecticut. Long story short, they picked up the original version of Pepperbox Muzzle.
Hey, Pepperbox Muzzle. For those of you at home, of course, genre altering, I would say, electronic.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, because it's like to me, it was sort of like this is at the time it was like it just existed. You know what I mean? It was like in terms of what we were talking about of electronic music being sort of this locked box, right? Like I know I can look at a punk band and be like, okay, that sound is coming out of that guitar, right? Like that's right. But I'm listening to my Birmingham Six going like, I don't know what this is. Like this is magic on a tape, and then this band out of Western Mass is just like did it. So I don't know, like with like Anything Box and like Information Society and like these American sort of bands just made it like accessible to me. But like there was an edge with that Pepperbox Muzzle that I didn't quite hear elsewhere. So that's why I said what I did. But I'm sorry, I
no, interesting. That's I'm flattered. So long story short, the guys at Turn of the Century were friends with Rick and Skip at Axis Records, who then picked up the record and said, well, we'd like to re-record some of the songs with Skip producing. Of course, at this point, it's like Skip McDonald of Tackhead. Yes, please. I'll take it. Flew me to England. I worked in Southern Studios.
Really? Wow.
For the two singles for DWI and Antidote.
Okay.
With Skip there and hung out there. We lived with them for 2 weeks. Went to so many shows. They were on tour at the time.
Okay.
It's just marvelous. They were sweet and funny
Mhm.
and very encouraging and willing to share knowledge. And I got to look over Adrian Sherwood's shoulder a few times, which was,
That's pretty dope.
yeah, watching him do live mixes for Joel Wobble and Keith Levine.
What? Just
Yeah,
like magical spells happening on a mixing board in front of you.
he plays the desk like an instrument.
Okay,
It's like nothing I'd ever seen.
that's so cool.
Yeah, just live dub mixing in the most ferocious way. I swear to God, the guy has forearms. It's
Really?
incredible.
You just
Yeah,
okay.
just everywhere. So that's the that's sort of the beginning of that thing. So how I
Okay.
ended up hooking up with the Boston Electro folks, I think, was partially through that label thing. I can't remember. It's a long time ago now. I think there was just also a few mutual friends, including oh boy, I'm gonna forget the name of the band now, but I met him when he was at UMass, and then he moved out to Boston, and I believe that may have been a connection.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fine.
I was working at a record store, and then would kind of meet everybody with like-minded
Okay.
tastes.
Cool. That wasn't
So
the
I
one
don't-
with Moby, was it?
Moby?
No, there was. Sorry, there was. It's come up twice. On here on Couch, there was a record store that I can't now. I'm blanking somewhere in the New England area that Moby worked at. So
Oh
like
yeah, no,
P-
not that one.
Okay. Just people of our line that tend to gravitate towards working in record stores in early life. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like, wow, okay,
Fantastic.
that would be an amazing coincidence. But okay, never mind.
That would be cool, but no, it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, so all right, we're in England. We've got we're working on Pepperbuck's muzzle with the Yamaha DX7.
The Roland D110 was a heavy
Heavy
lift.
That was your like.
That was a
go-to?
heavy lift on that record.
Are you talking about like physically a heavy piece of gear? Or that was like the main thing.
No, it did the heavy lifting.
I see.
You
All
know,
right.
That was that I pushed that thing to its absolute limits for that record.
Okay. So
And,
you figured out little
yeah.
tricks how to like double up a sound or something like that.
Yeah, or it's a sample based playback synth.
Okay.
So you figure out like, whoa, if you go down really, really low with this one sample, all the artifacts that were sitting up way up in the inaudible range, all the
Yeah, I love
all
that
the
stuff.
aliasing noise and everything, that comes down into the audible range, and now you've got a completely different sound.
That's so
So
cool.
there's lots of really cool, bright, not bell-like sounds, but kind of ringing. If you listen to the record, you'll well, in I think the intro to DWI, there's this panning, twinkling sound, and that's one of those things where that's some sound. I don't know which one at this point. Shifted down like 8 octaves.
Apropos, in Twitch, DJ Recovery Rate says, love bringing it down to the low register. All right. Do you have mental markers for phases of out?
Mental markers.
Like,
I just lost
In my
my
life, like I sort of like, because I've been doing music for like a million years, and so I've been like, I can sort of think of eras of my projects, just because this has been such a more or less consistent thing. I'm like, do you market by eras, if at all, or is it just sort of one
yeah, okay.
thing to you?
Yeah. There's been 3 distinct eras, and they're marked by periods of inactivity.
Okay.
So the first era is 89 to about 99,
Okay.
where I didn't really release anything after 97, but I had continued writing. And that's sort of what spawned the Hasten the Burning, the 2 CD anthology, which is all unreleased remixes and all new mixes or new edits of previously released tracks from the first 4 records. Nothing exactly the same as it was originally released, so it's all fresh-ish. But from then to about 90, no, about 2006. I spent a lot more time just working in my studio, working with bands,
Okay.
doing a bit of writing. I did a soundtrack for a video game that never came out.
Oh
Got
no!
shelved. Um,
I got one of them.
yeah, well, I eventually did something with it. So
Okay,
that was
cool, cool.
I eventually was able to claw back the rights, which wasn't actually difficult because the company got sold to another company, which got sold to another company, and nobody knew what assets they had anyway. And the president of the company that I worked for was a friend of mine, and he said, nobody has any idea that that even exists. It's yours. Do whatever you want.
Awesome. All
So
right.
I got to double dip on a work for hire. Yeah. But then I had at that
Cyber
point,
criminal. What's like?
yeah, I'd stockpiled a few things, and then that started out the sort of the second era, which was the late, the 2005 through whatever 2009 or whatever, putting out the Virtual Sound Images record, the Assumed Outraveling record, which that's from the video game.
Oh, okay.
And the couple EPs and singles and sort of experimental stuff that I'd stashed away and kind of dug out and finished up and completed. And then got busy with my studio again. And then the third era started around 2008 or 2009, where I started writing, but I didn't really put anything together. And that took 10 years for me to get to the point where I had Swan Dive done.
Oh, okay. Wow. A long time in the hopper.
Picking away at it here and there, and then putting on the shelf and picking it away. That though, combined with a friend of mine who did this really wild short film called Asteroid 99, saying, "Hey, I love the soundtrack. Could you make it sort of like, no drums and Tangerine Dream kind of thing?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I could probably do that. I've not really dabbled there." So I did the soundtrack, which was very experimental for me, and had a few other experimental pieces. Put that out as the first thing I'd released since 6 years or something. But that gave me the freedom to go, I can do whatever.
Yeah.
And that opened the floodgates for through 2020, just putting stuff out as much as I could. Because I just stockpiled all these ideas, and bam, they're there. There's actually one record I think that I still haven't. Yeah, there's one record I still haven't done, but it's really, really experimental.
Okay. Meaning, because that's where I was going to go.
It's drones.
This is not yet released, but you have.
No.
You're telling me there's an out drone album that we could get someday?
Yeah, I mixed it in surround and figured out, I should really figure out a way of putting it out on on a 5.1 DVD.
Oh yeah, do
everybody's
doing manifesto
Atmos
thing.
Yeah, and it is mixed in surround as well as stereo. And I don't know. It's 5 20-minute long pieces.
Yeah.
All of them start in the same key as the other ones. Some progress and end up in the same key, and some never change.
That Ghosts thing 9 Inch Nails did 20 years ago made
maybe
$1 billion. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. You just
I bought the box set of that. I have that box set.
Oh well, then okay.
With the crazy bound thing.
All right. Well,
this is nowhere near as ambitious as that. This is just me dicking around.
Okay, well, I'll take it. You're hearing a Space Couch exclusive. There's a secret drone surround album that Mark hates, which means it's awesome.
I don't hate it. I just think it's completely unmarketable.
Okay, well, yeah, but to normies, but you're dealing with the beautiful freaks audience here.
Yeah. How many of you out there actually have a 5.1 system? Forget Atmos. I'm not going there.
Okay.
Not going there. How many people out there have a 5.1 system?
I used to, but I got it for that Pete Manifesto album.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I got into it too. For those.
Yeah.
For the in-dub, and there was a one that he did with David Stokes as well. Oh boy.
I don't know that one. Well,
Oh, it's fantastic.
the Brian Null in the chat room says, "I want to hear an Out Out Drone album." Um, so even in the chat, we'll do Space Couch impromptu. Droid Rage 62 and Five Sarah say they do, getting a lot of love for the. Even if you don't have a 5.1 surround sound system at home because nobody has any money because fucking life is horrible.
Yeah.
People still want to hear that Out Drone album. So if you haven't done, hey man, look, Bandcamp.
Maybe I'll just do a stereo release of it and press up a handful of CDs or something and put it up on Bandcamp and the streaming services.
Bandcamp Friday. The mighty Out comes. Yo, here's a new drone album. You'll have rent paid. Oh, you have an actual house. You're a human being. You'll have a vacation paid for. DJ Recovery Rate gives you the goat emoji. So
nice.
Lots of free love for a potential Out Drone album. You heard it here first on Space Couch, unless you didn't, but I'm saying you did. I want to go real quick into the live show you just played with in East Hampton. How was that?
It's fun. I did it twice.
Okay, is that just you on stage, or wasn't able to get there?
It was just me. The main reason, Derek Rush, Compactor,
friend of the show.
Yeah, he reached out to a bunch of people on Facebook. Hey, would like to do shows here, and here, and I'm like, well, Western Mass. I've got a venue he could probably play. And so I reached out and said, hey, yeah, sure. And it ended up being, he was touring with, and I'm forgetting. I'm just bad with names. But
no.
Matthew, oh God, does this thing, modular synth with this giant subwoofer rig. And I'm just spacing on the name of
it's not, this is not okay. Or
I can't recall.
Yeah.
It's dumb. I should have been prepared. I'll figure it out. Put it in the show notes. Yeah,
we'll put in the show notes.
I thought, that's cool. I'm hosting this sort of noise show in a scene in an area where there isn't that much of a scene for it. Maybe we can up the ante a little bit. And so I reached out to Steven and said, hey, would you come up and play a Stoneburner show?
Awesome.
And he said, I will if you play. Okay. I don't have a band. He says, doesn't matter. Just play with your laptop. Just
very cool.
Do more than just karaoke, but you don't have to do much more than just karaoke. Okay, fine. So I got excited and did it, and it was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And then got asked by another local kind of electronic music collective. They were bringing some folks out from St. Louis. Again, I cannot recall these names because I'm really bad with names.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, and I'm also getting over a head cold, so that's fogging my brain.
Yeah, I'm really sick.
But did another show at another local venue, and the folks from Snow Beasts came out for that.
Hey, Snow Beasts!
Yeah, that was really great.
I was supposed to see them last night, but then I didn't. Sorry. But awesome. We love Snow Beast. Shout out to them. Both of them have been the gig.
Awesome.
So I'm happy that's working out. I'll have to get you out there one day. So I'm loving that you're doing the one man show thing. Loving that.
Occasionally.
Yeah.
It limits me in the material that I have to draw from. I don't feel like I can do any of the rock stuff that has, guitars in it.
Well, I'm glad that statement is well timed. Droid Rage 62 asked something. I'm glad you did because we got to get into this. I always been curious how Vane Cage was an influence.
Vane Cage is one of my best friends from middle school into high school.
No kidding, really?
Yes. Yeah. Peter Donardi, aka Pedro Desperia, as he was known as then. Vane Cage started probably around the same time Out did. We
Okay.
kind of were working in parallel, collaborating with each other. And then eventually it got to the point where he had the seeds of an album coming down, and I was going over to his place and helping him
Uh-huh.
out. And then we started writing. We wrote a few songs together. He came over to my studio. We did a few songs that way. And so it started life before the 1991 edition of Pepperbox Muzzle came out.
Oh wow.
Well before. In fact, it probably started in 1989 or 1990.
Kidding.
And around 92, we finished it up and put out that first record, Farrelled In. But it was really always his project. It's funny because there's some bio online that says, I started in Vein Cage and then went on my own. It's like, no,
Yeah. Well,
no.
I mean,
I'd been doing both kind of in parallel.
Right.
This is one of my best friends from high school.
you're just you're just like kids figuring out how synthesizers.
Oh God, we started out using the 2 tape machines and a mixer, overdubbing
right.
from one to the next. I mean, seriously, that's
Crazy stuff. Yeah. Or like just mixing albums by like having one mic in a room and moving things physically closer and farther
Yeah.
away from just caveman stuff. I knew I was hoping this episode wouldn't go long, but we are
I'm
you
all
had
good.
mentioned before that you are no stranger to the tangent, and I just sort of got into it there. We'll have to do a drive-by on your existing podcast, but I need to do some features of the show, or else there'll be civil unrest. So let's get into that. This is Radiation Round, called
Oh,
that
boy.
because light is exceedingly rare in space. No wrong answers. Say whatever you want. So, out. Hash browns, waffle fries, or tater tots?
Do I have a time limit? No.
Nah, it's fine.
Hash browns.
Hash browns. And what's a criminally underrated movie?
Criminally underrated movie.
Yeah.
Criminally underrated movie.
Or just an underrated movie. Doesn't have to
Yeah,
be criminally so.
Well, I think out of all of Hitchcock's canon, one that doesn't get its due is The Man Who Knew Too Much.
The Man Who Knew Too Much. Okay.
I wouldn't
have to
necessarily
check
say
that
it's not necessarily underraid, but definitely not
No,
one that
it's-
people talk about that often.
Right. I mean, like you run up to somebody and go, Hitchcock movies, what do they would say? Like Psycho, Rope, and,
Yeah,
all the-
Vertigo.
Vertigo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like North by Northwest.
Northwest
also.
is- yeah. Okay, the Birds. Okay, Man Who
Yeah.
Knew Too Much. Fantastic answer. And finally,
Oh,
almost
One other one.
Yeah.
One other one. The Conversation.
The Convert. What's that? I don't know one.
Let's see. This is the names thing again. Who directed The Godfather? I believe.
Scorsese. Yeah,
Was it Scorsese?
The Godfather. I mean,
I think it was Scorsese, and he did it as a palate cleanser between Godfather 1 and Godfather 2, but I may be conflating this with another famous series of films from that same era, but it was early 70s.
okay.
Cindy Williams and Han Solo, what's his name?
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, yes.
Yeah.
Young Cindy Williams, young Harrison Ford, and Gene Hackman.
Okay.
And Gene Hackman reprises his role kind of in Enemy of the State with Will Smith.
That's from The Conversation.
There's actually one scene in Enemy of the State that is camera angle to camera angle the same.
Wild.
It's an homage to The Conversation.
I had no idea. I saw it in New State in the theater with sponsor of the show, Lured by Radium, who you saw in the Patreon credits there. Wow, what a weird connection. Yeah, me and my buddy Pat saw that shit in Enemy of the State in the theater in high school. who now sponsors my dumb fake show where we interview heroes from said high school. Okay, so that was a weird. I'm so glad you said that. I had never heard of even the movie The Conversation, which I'll check out. Coppola,
Definitely.
sorry, says Five Sarah. Not
Thank
Scorsese.
you.
Screwed it up.
Thank you.
And
'Cause I'm terrible.
finally, not
We're still in
unselfish.
radiation round.
This, yes.
Okay.
What's the number one mistake you see people make when you're fixing up their stuff?
Ooh,
Low end
that's
filter, or
tough. Yeah.
like panning thing.
I think oftentimes it's just low end management.
Low end management.
A little too much going on.
A
You
little
know,
too
pick
much.
pick two or three things that can be happening in the bottom two octaves
Uh-huh.
at any given time and stick with
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Because once you've got something that's if your low end is constantly going,
hmm
then there's no dynamics in your low end, and like you can crank your kick drum up as much as you want, and all you're going to do is just clip.
Right. Okay.
That and eh, yeah, off the top of my head, that's one of the things
No,
I
that's
see a
perfect.
fair bit.
That's perfect. So from the top, we had was it hash browns? Or
Hash browns.
Hash browns. The Conversation and The Man Who Knew Too Much, and low end management. Pick two or
Low-end
three things. You
Huh.
know, you can blow it out with a kick drum, but why would you? Like when you can just turn on the lawnmower at that point, because that's all you're gonna get.
Yeah, well, that's when ducking is your friend too.
That's
so.
when. Oh, yes. Well,
duck that shit off the kick drum.
I have just decided that the rope here on out on I am renaming to the side chain. So you just saw that happen in real time. And let's do the
I was here.
the last of the hypothetical spectacle. This is where we sort of take the essence of your musical output and distill it down into like the 80s action movie or the dinette set out the dinette set or whatever. So for this one, it's the one we do all the time, but I am really curious as to what out the video game would be like. Would it be like a dating sim where you can admire the question? Or would this be like a real time
Beautiful.
strategy game where you can level up your armies like all around the world? It could be with turns and stuff like that, spanning your career. What if you had a sort of video game eyes out? What might that look like to you?
Well, the soundtrack that I did for
Yeah.
that video game was for
Aha!
it was for a top down real time strategy game.
Oh no shit! Okay, cool.
Sort of command and conquer type game, and I
Okay.
actually got to see it in beta. It was really really good, but the parent company pulled the plug for
Oh
some reason. Who knows?
no! Could you?
And
shoot
I did have a bunch of tracks on the Sims like Playboy the Mansion game.
No kidding,
Hugh-
really?
Hugh Hefner's stereo in the living room of the mansion. If you go in and you select the industrial channel, it's all me. It's just bizarre. But again, same video game developer involved.
Okay,
These were friends of mine. So
ladies
me up
and
with that.
gentlemen, if you play The Sims Mansion, and
it's the Playboy the Mansion.
if you play Playboy the Mansion, the Sims video game, and you
Well,
turn,
it's not a Sims franchise, but
it's not a Sims, it's a Sims S game.
it is
Okay.
a Sim S game. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
but okay, officially Playboy the Mansion. If you play that and turn on Hugh Hefner's stereo to the industrial channel, it was written by Out. This
It's
is a
all material you can get everywhere anyway, but
but like that's so cool. Ah!
it was pretty funny.
All
It was
right,
pretty funny.
that's
So
what a life, man. That's amazing.
so I think if I was to say what my music would be, if you took a Sims-esque game,
Okay.
a top-down real-time strategy type game, and merged it with Myst, I'd be
Oh,
pretty happy. I'd be pretty happy. I don't
okay.
know I don't know how that would happen, but
I mean, a toggle flip would be involved somewhere
yeah,
because it's missed. But yeah, okay. No, real time
yeah.
strategy missed. No, I dig it. Yeah, there's like, but it's like Sims, so like people are your units are building the SVGA graphics
Yeah.
dome from.
Yeah, you couldn't do a top-down and a Myst style though. I guess that's not compatible.
We'll figure it out. No, we'll figure it out. Ha. Stupid. That is hypothetical spectacle. We are missed. Nice, says DJ Recovery Rate. I do need to ask you about this media empire you have going on with your wife. That sounds amazing. Give us
Oh.
where to go.
My wife has been running an arts and literary journal
Mm-hmm.
for about over 17 years now, and when we started dating, she was about 3 years in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful journal called Meat for Tea, MEAT, Meat for Tea. And when we started dating, she had a graphic designer, awesome guy, Raphael Lino. What a great name for a graphic designer, by the way, Lino.
Wow.
Lino, right?
That's like you wouldn't believe it if somebody said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fantastic guy, but he got too busy where he couldn't really do the layout for the magazine any longer. But just before he left, they'd been experimenting with different shapes and sizes of the magazine. Just before he left, the three of us got to talking, and I said, you should really fix this and brand it. And so he came up with the basic layout that it now exists in, and then I took over as the graphic designer. I've been doing it every 3 months for the past 14 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is a graphic design like a podcast that we go and check out.
Well, there's a podcast element which came about because every issue of the magazine, she hosts a event where she has art on exhibit, short films, spoken word, and live music as a
Wow.
way of expanding an arts and literary journal into more of a multimedia space. She does these release parties. We did them at my studio for years and years and years until the shutdown, until the pandemic. And then when we could do them in person again, we did them at the brewery next door to where the studio is in East Hampton. That's where the show that I played was actually at the brewery. And so we recorded all these things. We recorded every single one of these shows, the spoken word and the music. And it's like, what are we going to do with this? And eventually she's like, well, maybe we can do a podcast and use this as some of the material. And that's how it started out. Now it's much more of a not an interview based, but a conversation based podcast.
Is that Meat for Tea? We should just put that in our podcast findy machines.
That was the goofiest face. Yeah, Meat for Tea Cast. So
Okay.
Tea Cast, one word, and meat as in, meat you eat. We're not pro meat consumption, although we are omnivores. We're not anti anything. So just so you know, it's a play on words. Anyway, so the podcast came out of that, and then one of our contributors back in 2014 said, "Hey, you should start a chapbook press and put out books as well." And we're like, no. But he goaded us into doing it. So we ended up starting a chapbook press, and now actually we've done, 9 or 10 books.
What?
Our first full-length novel just came out. Great book, by the
This guy's
way.
a machine.
If you like Revenant stories, Christian Livermore is The Very Special Dead. Her debut novel and our first novel on the press, Meat for Tea Press, just dropped October 1st, and it's a marvelous tale.
Okay. Wow.
If you like Revenant tales, the sort of the undead. type thing.
Hell yeah. They take longsword damage, and yeah, you can't turn them like zombies. You have to be fairly high level wizard wizard. That's what I know about Revenant.
That's about the extent of my knowledge as well. Yeah.
All right, sick. Yeah, they were in the original.
So that's
Monster Manual.
the meat for tea empire that is my wife's
Meat
empire.
for
that
Tea Empire. I didn't know we would land on Revenant stories. Well, I will let you go in just a second.
No worries.
Because my housemates need to set up their modular synths.
Nice.
Have a question here. How did Slaughterhouse become Sonalab?
The second iteration of Slaughterhouse was built in a barn that my now ex-wife and I renovated when we bought
Okay.
a house, and that was all going swimmingly until the marriage wasn't going swimmingly anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
And I couldn't afford to maintain the mortgage on my own, nor could she, so we had to sell the place. So I started looking around for a new studio space, and eventually ran into an engineer who I'd met through Jay Maskus, who sort of at that time was his like go-to engineer. Where prior to that I was, but then I had the studio and then I had a kid, so I didn't really have the time to be Jay's like in-house guy. And he was looking to build a new studio. I was looking to build a new studio, so we built a new studio together.
Very cool.
And that's it's been going really well, except for now I'm actually leaving the business for a number of reasons. One of which is I just don't use a 3,000 square foot studio often enough to justify the expense. The overhead has gone up every year because we're in a commercial building.
Okay.
And his business model has changed where that is justifiable for him. But I'm now sitting in my mastering room,
Right.
in my attic.
Right.
You know, it's a very different overhead factor. And there's tons of studios around here that I can work out of, that I do work out of if I need to do tracking. And I'm eventually going to change the other end of this room that way into a mix station. My Pro Tools system will be up here, and hopefully that'll also encourage me to write more,
Oh, great.
because
Well-
I can go upstairs and write as opposed to like driving 15-20 minutes to the studio to write.
It is
Right.
nice to have it right there. Mark, we're on a rogue flight path out here in space. I'm gonna bring this flying couch back on into the station. I do want to ask if there's anything we should keep our space users in the space ground for. Anything coming from the mighty out in the clip?
There might be a drone album coming out. I hear.
Hey, yeah, buddy. That's your out. Ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
by the way, it does have a title. It does have a title, Lacuna.
You heard it here first, ladies
It does
and
have a title.
gentlemen. Space Couch exclusive. Check out the upcoming drone album,
Baby.
Lacuna. No, it's definitely happening. I just decided that.
And I've started writing a little bit again. I've got one new track in the can that
Oh,
may be on the final Electronic Saviors comp.
yeah. Okay.
Which
Yeah.
last time I talked to Jim, he was down. So,
Very cool.
but I may have Stoneburner remix it for the comp,
Very cool.
because I think I want to save it for a record.
I saw
I'm
Jim
happy
at,
with it.
Okay. Oh, you want the real deal? You want?
Yeah, I want to save the original version for my next album whenever that happens,
we
10
will-
years from now.
Or it's the bonus track. It's DLC on that drone album. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Brian for Space Couch, for Mark for Out saying call the spaceships to Davenport, prepare for Divanity, and interface with a couch in space. Space Couch out. I love it. Credits here to get anything. At the last minute, but oh my god!
Thank you so much.
Wow, that was a crazy episode. Like, well, come back anytime, because I feel like we scratched the surface of the surface. But like, we just sort of got off on the music tangent because that's sort of what excites me. I was so like dead on my feet sick at the top of this episode, and now I'm kind of bouncing off the wall. So.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit more energized than I was. I was like, oh boy, I'm gonna be dragging my ass. Yeah, it was fun.
All
It was
right,
fun.
well, dude, so good.
You're,
Well, I'm
you're
sure
a
it was
great host for keeping things moving.
Well, you got to do it right, but we'll probably meet in meet space, pardon the pun, sooner or later. But
Yeah.
until then, I'll see you around. Thank you so